I had lost my fiance 8 years ago to suicide, which was definitely my rock bottom.
Just clearing the energy, clearing the space. We got a lot of fire going. And setting our intention that your comeback story helps motivate and inspire and strengthen at least one person out there who's dealing with their own grief journey or the loss of a loved one. And we will get started.
So why don't you give us your intro, tell us who you are.
Okay, so I am Kate from Vibe Sessions with Kate, and I'm all about helping people raise their vibration, thus raising the collective energy of the planet. And I do that through various Reiki techniques, sound healing, crystal therapy, intuitive coaching, meditation, mindfulness, and a bunch of other things. So it's really just about keeping that collective energy high vibing and everybody just in a really peaceful, whole space.
Amazing. And so you're located in
Point Pleasant Beach, New Jersey. Yeah, so I have my own space down here, which is amazing. I love it.
Obviously, you've had, some really tough stuff that you've been able to work through on, your own journey into coming into this space now where you help other people heal and raise their vibrations. I think this episode is really important because we are discussing how to handle grief, handle the loss of a loved one, especially around, holidays, anniversaries, things like that, where it can be a little bit tougher to get through. So give us the backstory, your rock bottom experience where, you did lose your fiance.
Yeah, so basically how I got here. So I had lost my fiance 8 years ago to suicide, which was definitely my rock bottom. Like one of those moments where literally your whole entire life just like completely turns upside down. It was probably harder than your average suicide because there was a lot of drama between the families. Something that I really realized with suicide is that a lot of people want to blame other people for it, and they don't want to take on anything that they may have contributed to this person feeling a certain way about themselves. So I lived with him and I actually found him. So that was like really tough too, because I had to deal with all the PTSD from that. Like I was like super scared to sleep at night. Like my cousin and my brother, like we'd be in the living room. They'd like literally be watching me go to sleep because I was so petrified. And then the next day, his family made me go back to the house, and literally they kicked me out of the house and made me put all of my stuff in garbage bags. And it was like crazy because there was a will too, and in the will, he had left me a lot, but he said that I could stay in that house as long as I wanted. But I feel like at that point, that wasn't even something I was gonna like fight. I was just like, all right, just get your stuff, just get out of here. So I moved back in with my family in the Bronx, and I didn't really have a room anymore because I'd been gone for so many years. So I was just sleeping on a couch for 3 months, and it was actually kind of crazy. I met him like during a hurricane, and when he passed away, it was literally Hurricane Sandy. So we buried him, Hurricane Sandy hit, we lost all electricity. But I always I was kind of had like my saving grace because I always had a house in New Jersey, and we lost that for 3 years too. Like I feel like the universe literally was just like, we are gonna throw everything at you all at once. So I was basically like living in my family's house on a couch. All of my stuff was in black garbage bags, and I was just sitting in like a pitch black room with candles because there was literally like no electricity, nothing. And it was really tough. But through that, I found Reiki. I moved into Bronxville. I just kind of picked there because I thought it was safe. And I was still like very, very scared to be alone. I was just very scared all around. His family actually like had people following me. It was out of control. It was just so much. I actually didn't get to process the suicide. I was scared shitless for like 3 months. And then it started to, like, the PTS started to subside. I was like talking to therapists. I was in school for social work, which really helped because all my teachers were therapists. So they were super understanding, and I received a lot of counseling. And then when I started to really kind of process what was happening after, you know, the initial shock had subsided, I started to seek out more holistic alternatives, because I was doing the talk therapy, but I just didn't really feel like anything was happening. You know, like I felt like it was just kind of a lot of just talking, but like we weren't actually like scratching the surface of anything. So Reiki literally found me. I was at such a low, and I was like, let me do like a tarot card reading or something like that. And I went to this place, Trap Rock Suite in Eastchester, because people told me about it. So I was like, all right, this is a legit place. So I make an appointment for my tarot card reading. I walk in. I'm a very open person, you know, so they're like, oh, like go into the back room, like lay on the table. So I'm kind of like, lay on the table. Like, I guess they want me to get like super zen before they give me this reading. But I felt super safe there. So I just like laid down. This guy came in. He started like giving me like a meditation. And all of a sudden he was just over me, but he wasn't touching me. But I felt like it was just like instantly, like I just felt all of this energy. And so he does whatever. I'm still just laying there like, I don't know what the hell this is. Like, I don't know what is going on right now, but it's making me feel better. So I left that session. We ended up pulling a card. So I was like, maybe that was a card reading. I don't know. But I felt like I was on a high for like 2 weeks. I had never felt that light in my life because I still hadn't yet realized that I was an empath. So I was just carrying years and years of people's stuff. So it was just like literally like pounds like lifted off of me. Like I was like, whoa, like here I am. So I went back a month later and I was just like, hey, like what was that thing that you guys did? And I'm like telling them and they're like, oh my God, we booked the wrong thing for you. Wow. So that's kind of how I got into energy, and it just like all took off from there. So I just started to go because it was making me feel good. And I guess as I was just like peeling back the layers and really discovering that like who I was and my gifts, I mean, it took on a life of its own, and I just got completely lost in this work. And then the more that I would, you know, heal, the more I started to realize like I do have a gift and I want to share it with other people. So I left like teaching, and to be honest, I've been winging it ever since. And it's working.
It's so true though. It's like when it rains, it pours. And it's like, not only did you have to deal with like the loss of your fiance and processing like everything that you had to go through, but then it's like the hurricanes, the family issues. It's like,
it's a lot of baggage.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. I just remember sitting in a dark room, like by myself, staring at a candle, and was like, what the fuck just happened to me? Like, what is going on right now?
Yeah, well, like, I mean, what did it feel like? Like, what feelings and emotions were you even thinking or processing?
I think initially it was more shock. Like, I think when he hung himself, and when I found him, he was actually still alive. I found him with a friend. So we took him down and I gave him CPR. So I think for me, there was just like my adrenaline, you know, when they say like fight or flight, like I realized in that moment I'm fight. But my adrenaline was just so crazy, and the shock value of it, like, it's almost like I couldn't process it. Like, it was just like, I literally, like, I remember when the police were there and they were questioning me, it was like someone was standing in front of me asking me questions, but I was just like, not even there. I was like trying to answer, like I was just like trying to put all the pieces together. The time of it all, like, I can't like remember everything. But it was like a couple of months for sure, a few months. And then everything started to kind of like sink in. And then it moved into like sadness, and anger. Cause I think that with suicide, there's a lot of anger because you're left in a space of like, what ifs? Could I have done this? How could this person like do this? Like, not just to me, to everybody, to themselves. Like, you're just left in this bubble of like utter confusion where you have no idea like what to think or how to make sense of it. Because, you know, when someone like dies tragically, like, of course, like, it's super shocking. But when somebody chooses to do that, it completely like shifts it, because you're trying to like almost like get into their head and understand like what was going on up to those last minutes. Like, what did I miss? Like, and now, you know, like looking back, there was a lot of stuff that I saw that I talked to him about, but you never really think suicide. I mean, maybe it's a little bit different now because it's definitely, you know, happening a lot more. So I think those, you know, not that it's an easy thing to talk about, but I think there's a lot more stuff out there now than there was 8 years ago.
What was the turning point for you where you went from, okay, I'm in this dark room with all my stuff in garbage bags, to like, I need to find a way to heal myself? Like, even the point of just seeking out, like getting a tarot reading or seeking out holistic, like, what is there like a specific moment that you kind of can recall where you're like, that's where it hit me, like time to take action?
Like, I feel like in the beginning I was seeking out like grief groups, but in the back of my head, like, it's weird, like, I guess because I've always been a healer, and I think like I've always been a deep soul, an old soul, it's almost like I knew I would be okay the whole time. Like, it's just like my resilience was there. And, you know, something too, like, before he committed suicide, a month before, I asked him if he was suicidal, because it was the strangest thing. I will never forget this. I was just like sitting in our room and I was reading a book, and it's almost like I got a download, but I wasn't super spiritual yet, so I didn't understand it. But I just got this thought, like, Pat is going to commit suicide. And then it just like went into my stomach, and I started to feel like literally like something is not right. So I had asked him, and, you know, he was super charismatic. So he's like, no, like, oh my God, are you kidding me? I love you so much. Like, I love life. This is the happiest I've ever been. I would never do that. So, you know, of course, like, you just are like, okay, like, maybe that was just like, what, I don't know what that was, but like, whatever, like, I'm wrong, right? So it's almost like that knowing before, I think on some level, like, I was preparing myself without even realizing I was, if that makes sense. Like, it was like a very spiritual, energetic thing, like almost like my soul knew what was about to happen. So I think, you know, when I was sitting in my parents' house, like staring at garbage bags, like on a couch, I was like, what? Like, I have to do something. But I think the Virgo in me, like, I need to finish things. So I was like in school for social work, and I had just, you know, I had just gotten a scholarship, and I was like working on this like whole project, and I was just like, I'm not giving up. Like, I'm not giving this up. And I think some of that too was like, I know that he wouldn't want me to give that up. So that was like kind of like my push. And again, I think going into school with what I was dealing with, made it a little bit easier to move through what I was moving through.
You had something else to focus on other than just...
Yeah, and, you know, they recognized it. They could see, you know, like, I would be in class, and like my teacher would be like, hey, come outside for a second. And she'd like pull me out, and she'd like talk to me, and then I'd go back in. Like, you know, they could tell like if I was like getting upset or if I was lost in like whatever happened. So I had so much support. I'm like forever grateful for that.
Besides the people that you were in school with and your teachers, did you have other people that were supportive during this whole journey and trauma?
Yeah, I mean, my family was amazing. I'm so grateful. I have such an amazing family. Like, they've really helped me through everything. And, you know, it's like funny to look back at it because it did happen to me, but it's like it happened to them too. You know, like, they were really close with Pat. And I think as family and friends, you know, when you lose someone, you don't know what to say. And I think when you lose someone to suicide, people really don't know what to say. So I think it was, you know, as they were supporting me, they were like also kind of lost themselves, but I knew like the love was there. Like, I knew it was there. They helped me with everything. And then, you know, like school, I was going to therapy. But I think ultimately what ended up happening was after that Reiki session, like, it's just like everything opened. Like, I was just like, okay, like, and it turned into me just healing myself. Like, I still use the outside sources, but it mostly became such an internal thing for me.
So what steps would you say, obviously it started with the Reiki session, what other things would you contribute to your healing?
So yeah, for me, it was mostly energy. But I think, you know, something that I did, and I kind of like had the ability to do that, and something that really shifted in me completely. You know, I was always like work, work, work. Like, I was in school, I was working like all the time. And I started to just really pull back, like, but like really pull back. Like, I think when you move through any type of loss, but maybe because mine was so traumatic, like, it made me completely look at life differently. So I really stopped like caring about the societal stuff, or like, oh, I have to be there at this time. Like, I literally was like taking days off like crazy, you know, like, I was going in as much as I could, but like when I knew that like I needed to just be with me, or like I needed a day to just cry, or a day to just feel it, like, I really gave myself that time. And I kind of was just like, if I lose my job for this, I don't give a shit. Like, and I really just kind of was around family a lot. Like, it became like really important for me to like spend time with my family, and like I would like go visit my grandmother. Like, I don't know, I just had this whole like awakening where I just started to do things completely different, because I was like, wow, like, I really understand that like life is short, and it's not about like the job, it's not about like, you know, the money that you're making. Like, I just really started to choose me over everything. And then, you know, I did the Reiki, then I got into sound, then I was doing meditations. Like, it was like anything that like attracted me, I was just like, yes, like, I need to do that. I need to do like a journey. I need to like do ayahuasca. I have to do all of these things. And I just started to just like, it's like I got lost in the healing, and I still am, which is like a beautiful place to be.
You know, obviously like suicide is such a crazy thing that you really probably can never wrap your head around, but I feel like it applies to any type of loss. It's like, it really just puts in perspective what's important, and, you know, makes you value your time a lot more.
Totally. What
100%.
what advice would you give to anyone that's dealing with grief overall, but, you know, even in particular grief from a suicidal death?
Honestly, I would just say like, nurture yourself, and like really just listen to what you need, and don't give a shit about what anybody says around you, because a lot of times like people are trying to help you, and I know it's from a good place, but I am a big believer that until you have actually moved through something, it's really hard to help somebody else move through it. So when it comes to something like suicide, or, you know, something that a lot of people, your average person, doesn't really experience, like, you have to listen to what resonates for you. You have to do what works for you. And like, yes, like, take, you know, what people say, like, listen, say thank you, take what you agree with, and throw the rest out. And just literally, like, you have to put yourself first, because it's such a process to rebuild yourself after something like that. So it's like, just do you. Even if it doesn't make sense, even if you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna lose my job for like taking this week off, it doesn't matter, because you need to heal in order to enjoy that job anyway. And through your own healing, you're probably gonna find out that you're doing a lot of things that are so out of alignment with who you truly are anyway. So it's probably just going to fall away on its own eventually. I found that when I was moving through stuff, the people that I was seeking out the most, or the people that I wanted to be around, were the people who didn't really say anything. They were just there. Like, I felt them. I knew the support was there. If I wanted to talk about it, they let me talk about it, but it wasn't really about like me talking and them trying to give me like, you know, oh, well, do this or this. It was just literally sitting there and holding space for me to move through whatever I needed. Like, you know, sometimes not saying anything is better.
So what's something that nobody tells you about this comeback journey after, you know, losing a loved one, dealing with grief? What's something that no one tells you about the comeback?
Well, I think when you lose someone in whatever way it is somewhat of an awakening. And I think a lot of people, when they wake up, they have this idea that it's going to be like love and light and beautiful and great. But as you dive into this work to heal yourself, the challenges do get bigger, but you're more able to move through them with ease. But it's like grief, it never really ends. Like, it's always going to be with you. It's just that, we get to different levels, and it's a roller coaster. And one day you can be totally accepting of what happened, and another day you could be so angry, and this could go on for so long. And it's really okay. Like, there is no, definite time. Like, it's not like, okay, like, you've had 2 years, you need to be over it now. This is going to go on as long as it needs to go on. But I think it's like understanding as you're healing, like, you are growing, you are evolving, and there's going to be so much light to that, but there's also still like so much shadow stuff that we have to work through. And grief is something that really opens that for us. And if we can, find the right supports, we can move through those shadow sides of ourselves and really learn so much about ourselves, which really opens us up to more light.
Through this, like, do you think that you would be this deep into spirituality and, everything that you do and know now if you hadn't gone through this traumatic experience?
No, probably not. But I do believe that this was part of my soul journey for sure. Like, just knowing where I am now. And I think that if it wasn't this situation, it would have been something just as big to shake me to my core the way that it did.
Do you still feel like you have a connection to Pat even after he's passed over? Do you ever feel his presence? Do you ever still communicate with him?
So when he initially passed, like, I felt him a lot. And then I think as I was moving through my own journey, like, I didn't feel him so much. But as I started opening more and connecting more to my gifts, I started to feel him again. But it's the thing with like all of this, like, trauma is what I'm learning is like, it's going to take me probably this whole life to truly heal this trauma. And I don't even know if I'm going to get it done in this life, like, who knows? Because there's so many layers, because it's like this October was his 8-year anniversary. And I probably got more upset this year than I ever have, besides when it like really happened. And I started to feel him. And to the point where I was like in my room and I was like talking to him, and then like a song that we would listen to would just like turn on my phone. So I feel like he was getting my attention. And I happened to go to a psychic medium, and he had said, he was just like, yeah, I have this like guy here, he's showing me a beach and there's a ring, and because we got engaged on the beach. And I was like, oh, this is definitely back. And this was like around the time that he was like kind of like trying to get my attention. And basically like what the medium said was that he's not leaving me until I'm happy again, like in a relationship happy. So I don't know, that's what the medium says, but I definitely felt his presence the most this year.
Interesting. Do you have any inclinations or ideas why that might be?
I don't know. I mean, it could just be, like my level of where I am spiritually. It could be what is going on with the collective. There's like a huge awakening happening right now. The ascension is happening. So, I think that our gifts are a lot more open and we're a lot more receptive to this stuff if we're tuned into it. So I think that has something to do with it too, because I've been experiencing a lot of other things like outside of just his presence.
Sure.
And I also think like as your gifts, we all have psychic gifts, right? It's just like a matter if we want to tap into them. But like as they open, it's like they open slowly, unless you're born with it. They open slowly. So it could also be too that, my medium gift is just getting stronger. And that's why I can like really like have these experiences now.
What is something you wish you knew back then that you know now?
Honestly, I would say like the one thing that I always find myself saying is that like, I wish I knew about these type of healing modalities. Like I wish I had like these types of coping skills, like even in like my teenage years, because I feel like if I knew how to cope in a way that resonated with me, I could have bypassed a lot of situations that were unpleasant, even though like I don't regret anything, because everything helps you to grow. But I think like maybe like moving through those unpleasant times would have been a lot, maybe I could have done it with a little bit more ease if I had the spiritual tools that I have now, which is why I would love to share this with little kids, because I'm like, oh God, if I had a sound bowl, like when I was a teenager moving through like annoying shit that just happens when you're a teenager, I'd feel so much better.
I'm just trying to think of anybody at home who's dealing with the loss of a loved one, like what I would want to know about your journey to help me.
I think like honestly, I think like the main thing is like when you're moving through loss, like that is an opportunity for you to turn inward, and it's really you finding the medicine that resonates with you, because our soul already knows what we need. So with grief, like with loss, with really anything that you're healing, it's such like trial and error. It's like you have to try different things to see what resonates with you, and then those are the things that, you know, the things that resonate are things that you hold on to.
I mean, this has been a really amazing interview story that you're telling us of your journey. Any final words of wisdom for anyone watching at home?
Yes, so I put this in my motto: the universe is working for you, not against you. A lot of us feel like, oh, like, why is this happening? Why is like the universe doing this to me? It's like everything is happening for you. You just have to be patient and really look for the lesson and the message, because it is always, 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 always an opportunity to grow and evolve.
I love that.
Amen.
So anyone looking to raise their vibration, anybody who is experiencing any type of loss, trauma, or just any type of hardship, because really this is what it's about. It's just helping you to move through that, to process that, to raise your vibration. You can totally reach out to me. You can find me Vibe Sessions with Kate. Thank you for having me, guys.
Thank you for sharing.
This has been really good.
Yeah,
I'm excited
really,
to get this.
really inspirational for sure. And
it is. You can overcome anything,
Mhm.
even like dark room, candle, black garbage bags.
yeah,
You definitely can. And I can honestly say that like when I literally thought my world was over. Like I truly believe that at that moment. And it's crazy because my like life is so different, but so much better than it ever would have been if I was still like in that situation, or even if I was still with Pat. Like it completely shifted the trajectory of my life. And like now I can sit here and say like I'm so grateful, and that even though it's so hard and I have so much, you know, feelings for him and his family, like it truly did give me the gift of awakening. So I'm so grateful.